Very good. So, welcome to the HVAC Game School Community Weekly Live Call. And it's very dark outside, so that's why it's like so shiny. I tried to set up my work lights here like this. So you can see it's kind of making it work. Anyway, so welcome back to our weekly live call. And first question, as always, is there any specific community questions that we are having today?
No, nothing this week, as far as I know.
No questions again. This is so interesting. Okay. Well, then I'm going to take a moment and thank everyone in the community because it has been growing and going very well. And there's a lot of engagement and a lot of technicians coming together now. There's daily activity, daily posts, daily comments. And I think it's really starting to build out a very nice community where you can ask questions and get feedback. And we're having people from all over the world asking questions. And we have every level of technician in there from starting out from like 1 to 3 years and also more experienced technicians. These people are driving really slow because they're like, what's going on? Um, and also like air conditioning business owners are on here. And I feel like there's more and more discussions also like in the back end, how you deal with customers, how you do it with repairs, and how you're taking care of a business. So I really want to like thank all the community and thank everyone that's taking part and engaging and sharing value. And it's very nice to go there every day and see that there's things that are growing and becoming more. And I feel like some of the people are now starting to be friends, you know. So, anyways, I wanted to take a moment and say thank you for that. And let's keep crushing it and keep expanding and keep more growth-minded oriented technicians coming to the community. So, just wanted to take a moment and say that.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, I myself have gone a little bit more on it, and I see a lot of stuff going on lately. So that's very good.
Yes. So, and then second, I wanted to take a moment and I think I'm going to kind of organize the way this call is going to happen. I think I'm going to change it back to the morning because the evening doesn't really change attendance that much. So I'll probably have it in the morning and I will also change it to obviously we will take up community questions and if somebody has a question and they are on the live call, we will take it up. But I think I will take it more of a moment and just go over what is top of mind for me, things that I have run across or calls that I've been running, things that I've been running into that are problematic, that I'm having trouble with, and how I resolve them, because then I can share more directly what like the problems that I run into and how I resolve them and maybe provide more value for the community on specific topics that come up. And then we can also maybe see a trend of things that come up more often and dig deeper on those because the more calls you have on something, then the more experience you gain with those. So it's something that I want to change on the format of this. So I wanted to take a moment and cover that as well.
Sounds good.
Good. And on that note, I had several interesting calls this week. One of them was an exploded capacitor, and I'm going to see if I can find a picture of it. I don't know if you can see this on here.
Oh no,
No,
it's very blurry. Oh, it's
it's
super
getting blurry.
blurry.
It
Almost.
keeps cutting it out.
Yeah,
Oh, that's so
I
so
know.
strange.
Right. No, wait, no, no. It's just blurry. It's just blurry.
That's very sad. Okay.
I know.
Well, anyways, it was maybe you could see it a little bit, but it was a capacitor, a hard start kit that literally exploded in the condensing unit. It was I think it was a 5 ton, like a smaller one. And I'm assuming what happened here, but I'll go through what I found because we got an emergency call that it wasn't heating, not cooling. It was a heat pump, so it switches over automatically. And the maintenance personnel on site, they already found the capacitor exploded like that. So they showed me a picture before we actually arrived. And I had honestly, I'd seen pictures online of a capacitor exploded like that, but I've never seen it personally. And First of all, I cleaned up everything. I removed the exploded capacitor. I mean, obviously turned off the power, cleaned off everything. And what I found is that the capacitor, when it exploded, it also short-circuited the control board in the condensing unit. So not only was the capacitor exploded, which needed to be replaced, but also the control board. Luckily, it was in stock and I could go and pick it up and replace it immediately. But I wanted to take a moment because what I assume that happened is that whenever it was replaced the last time, the capacitor, because it's you have the compressor and you have the condenser fan. So it was a dual run capacitor, and it was supposed to be an 80 microfarad and a 7.5 microfarad dual capacitor for that unit. And I assume what happened is that whenever the last call was placed that the unit wasn't running, it was probably that the capacitor was not working or was bad. And the technician that came out didn't have the correct capacitor on the truck. So what they did instead is they installed a 60 microfarad plus 5 microfarad capacitor, which is too low. So when you're starting the compressor with a lower microfarad, then you will have your amps spike and potentially blow the fuse or whatever. So what they did, they installed a hard start kit as well. And that hard start kit is what exploded the capacitor on that hard start kit because it just takes off the loads, the inrush amps. It helps because it kicks it up and it starts it faster. At least that's what's being claimed. So what I did, I called the manufacturer and I found out what was actually supposed to be there. You can also look on the compressor and the condenser fan motor. It should usually be written there. Sometimes it's also on your data tag, and found out that it's supposed to be a different capacitor in there. So I removed all of the extra wiring. And also they actually had three capacitors in there because they had their dual capacitor, they had their hard start capacitor, and then they had a third capacitor which they wired to get 7.5 microfarad for the condenser fan motor. So it was like full of stuff in there that was not needed. And I understand if you want to get the customer up and running and do that, but it just the more you put in there, the more chance for failure you have. So I always try to replace the parts that are in there with what is supposed to be in there. And I mean, it really depends, but on some customers, they rather have the correct stuff in there than something else. Obviously, if it's like 105 degrees outside and you just need to get them cooling, then you just get them cooling. But if it takes like another 12 hours because you're coming at one evening and the supply house is closed, and then you have to come back the next morning, if the customer is willing and your schedule allows it, I would always rather opt for putting the right part in there than trying to make it work and like, do some funky stuff. And that's just top of mind for me because then also they had a more repair for because they had to replace the control board that was now shorted and the cleanup. And anyway, so I just wanted to bring that up. That's
Yeah, that sounds very good. Yeah, I think I will always go by the safe way, so that makes sense.
yes, it's always better, but obviously being in the HVAC trade is all about providing comfort to the customer. And if you cannot provide comfort, then you're not really doing what you're supposed to be doing. So I can understand the mindset of probably what went on. It's all what I think that happened, based on what I find. But I just wanted to take that up. And another thing that is top of mind is a shorter note, maybe, but when you have new installations, new rooftop units, especially on gas heating, but also on electric heating, you want to make sure that did something happen? I feel like something blinked. No, anyways. Um, you want to make sure that you're burning off, especially on heat exchangers and gas heating, that you're burning off the oil from the factory forms on the heat exchanger. Because I ran a call this morning, where the unit actually went into alarm and the building was evacuated twice in the last 2 weeks, I think, because when the heating came on, the unit was installed in late summer and they didn't burn off the oil. Like basically the heat exchanger, they have molds in the factory, and when they're putting like when they're forming it, they need some oil so it comes out of the mold, and that oil stays on the heat exchanger. And when you're turning on the heat, it goes up to like 100, 105, 150 degrees. 100. I mean, usually your supplier is around 100, so in there it must be hotter, and it creates smoke, and you have this very distinct smell. And because it's hot and smoking, if you don't open up the side panel and let it air out, it literally took 10 minutes today of running the heater, blocking off the supply air vent, and just airing out the unit to get rid of all of that smell. And then we tested it in heating, cooling, and everything with like everything closed. But you definitely want to make sure when you're doing installations that even if you're installing in the summertime, you turn the unit into heat and you're burning off whatever oil on heating elements. You usually do that during your fall PM. You just turn on the heating element, you burn off the dust, you leave the unit open. So you're blowing it out on the side because you don't want to have all of that smell go into the space. And also it can potentially set off fire alarms, especially if you're working in like healthcare or education, or I mean, that was in a financial institution. So they have it connected to a fire alarm panel. They have a monitoring company. The fire department will come out. The building will get evacuated if that happens. So it's a very big point that when you're doing installs, just make sure you're taking the extra step and just do it 100%. So then when the winter time comes, you're not causing potential problems for your clients down the line. So
Yeah, that sounds very yeah, you should definitely do that. Sound and a very nice story. To twice to be evacuated because of the same problem is kind of like interesting in that way. Anyways, that's pretty
yes,
pretty out there. But okay. Alrighty,
yes,
sounds
yes.
very it's very clear. Sounds very clear. Very
So
well.
those are the top things that are top of mind. We also had another. Oh wow, these are like fancy cars. They're all like decked out in like Christmas decoration cars. It's funny when you're like sitting by a road and doing the live call. Um, but also another thing is like when you're like having low voltage wiring, sometimes you can run into weird, funky wiring that you don't really understand. And I had a call just now where the fan the fan relay, like the blower, the evaporator blower, was directly connected to the low voltage transformer, and it had 24 volts. Like the fan is running constantly, like 24/7. It doesn't matter if it's on or off. That's just how it was wired. And for some reason, the transformer blew and there was no more power. So the call was for no cooling, but actually there was a leak on the condenser. And that's what I had my mind focus on the leak. I repaired the leak, I charged the unit, but then when I was charging the unit, I noticed that our pressures just kept dropping and dropping and dropping. And I was like, why is it dropping? That doesn't make sense. Like once you let off on charging the unit, the pressure is supposed to rise again. So I was like, okay, somehow there is no heat exchange. Somehow I was like confused, but I knew that there was no heat exchange. So I knew it was something on the air handler side. I found out that the blower is not running. And then I traced it, and the transformer was in the heating compartment. So it's like totally like strange wiring, but then you have to like follow because there was no wiring on the unit. So you have to find from the blower, from the air handler. Yeah, you would have to trace the wires. They were ran across the air handler like 15 feet up in the ceiling. And then you have to trace it to the other side where the heat strips are. And then you go in there and you find how it's wired, because the thermostat was actually wired to the condensing unit, but the condensing unit didn't give power to the blower to come on. Like it's just not how it works usually. And these are just things. I mean, I can go more into details on that. But if you are looking for problems, one thing is, be aware of what you're doing. Like if you're charging a unit and something doesn't seem right, don't just keep charging and charging and charging because you might just overcharge it. But take a moment, take a step back, just look at everything, see what is happening, see if it makes sense what is going on. And if not, find out why it doesn't make sense and what is actually going on, and then take measures to address that situation. Because I replaced the transformer, I had the blower run, and was able to finish charging the unit. And then now we have to quote figuring out all the wiring because that's not part of the quote that we're there for right now. But at least now we know what is going on. We know that it is running right now. They have heating, they have cooling. But if you don't look and you just do it, then you would get a callback eventually because people are like, okay, now it's not working. Like, what's going on? So, anyways, that's another thing, especially when you're dealing with funny or like weird installations where it's not installed how it is in the manufacturer manual.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. That makes total sense on the way how to do it. So I think those
Yeah.
were very good subjects for this week. So that's good. And I think our time is over, but will be next week in the morning. Yeah.
Yes. And
Okay,
we
good.
also have more light and stuff, especially now in the winter time. So
That's right.
yeah.
Okay.
And then we also have a call on Saturday where
Oh
I'm
yeah.
gonna go over the community and the purpose of the community and how to get more value, how to like get the most value out of the community, and also the vision, the vision and the mission. Like what's the plan? What is kind of like I would see in the future for the community? I want to go through that as well. So it's going to be on Saturday at 10 a.m. So we'll do that.
Okay. We'll be there. We'll
Yes.
be there. Alrighty
Yes.
then.
Okay. Very good.
Okay.
Okay. Well, see you then. Have a good
Okay,
one.
bye.
Okay. Bye.